Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Welcome to the 9th Virtual Miro User Group event. My name is Jonathan White. I'm a management consultant from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and my company Improve has been using Miro for 2 years now. My company helps organizations build capability and operational excellence. And so really, I'm teaching a lot of my clients and coworkers and associates right now how to use Miro to really make it more effective and collaborative to deliver the teachings of operational excellence to my clients and get everyone on the same page and working together to find the efficiencies that make our companies better. And I'm very pleased to have a co-host with me this evening, my fellow North American Miro User Group leader, great title, Annie McLeod. Hey, Annie, how's it going?
You're on mute.
Oh, that's always embarrassing.
It's the hello of the 21st century.
Yeah, exactly. I spend half my days going unmute, mute. So hello, everyone. Glad to see you all out here. We're very excited about this evening. Just wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. I am a professional project manager from beautiful Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada. I've been using Miro since it was real-time board. And had the pleasure of being able to explore how it supports us in our work in project management and with the project management game board. And then I've also had the pleasure of working with John and Natalie and Brittany on the user groups, and had, through that whole experience, been able to meet such great people as Joshua and Isman. So I think you'll really enjoy the guest this morning for the bulk of our attendees here. Also, John and I are two of the founders of Distributed Success, where we work with some associates and collaborators to help organizations thrive with distributed workforces. And we found that aligning people around culture in particular with these remote workforces is such a stress point. And we look at creating flexible and adaptable processes to support digital transformations, and Miro is a key tool of that.
Joshua is a conversation architect with Nomium, based out of Hong Kong, and he spent 2 decades refining his approach on how to effectively and make effective and persuasive conversations happen. He's the author of Radically Remote, a field guide to live online learning engagement. And we also have Isman, who is an organization development consultant who focuses on business agility and leadership coaching and training. He helps teams get better at working together by applying his knowledge of liberating structures. So that's an alternative way, an alternative approach to how people work together by replacing or complementing conventional practices. So we'll turn it over to them, first to Joshua and then following up to Isman. Take it away, gentlemen, and I'll stop my share of the screen so you can grab it, Joshua.
Awesomeness. So thank you, John. Thanks, Anne. Thanks, Anne. Thanks, Natalie. I'll toss it over to Isman in a bit. For this first section, you're hanging out with me. If you came here for Isman, I promise we're closing out with him with some amazing stuff with liberating structures. You'll see him smiling there. It says Isman Singapore Boy, that's now your official title, Isman. That's going on your LinkedIn. So good morning and good evening, depending on where you're dialing in from. And as John mentioned, I have the strange title, Conversation Architect. Basically, that just means I'm really interested in conscious conversations. And in particular, really interested in our challenge of how we can actually do this in a virtual space when we're creating trainings, when we're creating workshops, whether it's a design sprint, an innovation session, or a session on how to present better, how to influence better, but just when we're creating virtual workshops, when we're going live face-to-face to live online, how can we actually make that move work well? Now, if my slides are tiny, by the way, because you've got us in this big, beautiful gallery room version where you can see all 64 of us, you can just click in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. It says speaker view. That will egotistically make me larger, but it will also make it so you can actually see my slides, which is it's sometimes a little bit helpful to see that. But basically, in terms of looking at spaces, I think that Churchill was actually prescient. He said, we shape our buildings, and thereafter they shape us. And this is not rocket science. If we're having a conversation with people, the shape of that conversation and where we're sitting really does matter. If I'm sitting, face to face with you, across from you, it's going to be a very, very different conversation than if we're walking side by side. let's see, Steelcase has done tons and tons of studies on the shapes of classrooms. There have also been, of course, studies on interaction patterns within those classrooms. So basically this idea that the actual virtual space we're creating and the interactions within that space can be something a lot more. So as Scotty Malamed says, our brain extends to the tools we use. We're inseparably linked to the experiences of having a 3D, of a body located in the 3D world. What does that mean in plain common language? A painter extends to their paintbrush. A photographer you've seen with that camera glued to their eye. And for us with Zoom, we are extended out into the platform that we're using. We're meeting our families here. We're going to work here. We're dating here. We're socializing here. And we're feeling a bit zoomed out. So the question is, how can we actually consciously create something that does a bit different than that? My one long quote of the day, and I promise it's the only long quote of the day, is by Lenny Scott Weber. He says, when you open the door to a space, does it give you permission to act differently other than to be behaviorally conditioned to sit and sit or stand and deliver, very, very traditional classroom? Basically, if the space doesn't give permission to change, then it's too easy to revert back to what we know. And the same is true with our virtual workshops. If we just put people into a Zoom, they go into webinar, meeting, brain turned off, multitasking mode, and they don't really have permission to do something else. It's not enough just to give people breakouts. We've got to go beyond that. So that's our goal today, really simple, to consciously shape our spaces and patterns of interaction to create deeper conversations that go beyond Zoom fatigue. That's it. That's our goal for the next 45 minutes. And rather than sitting and talking about it, I am going to be tossing you into the desert in a moment. Now, let me explain where we are. I'm going to drag you to where I am on the Miro board, just so you can actually see where all this is. Oh, and I'm going to, by the way, if you get overloaded with all those cursors going all over, quick Zoom, quick Miro tip, and I'll actually screen share so you guys can see this really, really easy. Quick, awesome Miro tip is there's that button up by the share button that's got like an arrow thing, and you can turn the cursors on and off. And it's with that many people on there, I recommend turning it off. Otherwise it gets to be a little bit madness. So I'm actually gonna bring you down to my presentation. I'm gonna bring you down to the desert. And in just a second, I'll bring you to me. Bring everyone to me. It's reminds me of Mortal Kombat. You just pull people to you. So this is the desert, and it's gonna be a quick activity. Rather than actually talking about it, we're gonna try it on real quick. So let me give you the directions and background. In just a moment, I'm going to put you into a group. Actually, Natalie is going to put you into a group of 4 or 5. All right. This is a short mini version of the activity. In a real longer workshop, we'd go deeper, but this is just to try on and feel some of those patterns of interaction. So directions and background, you can click on the arrow here if you need more backup. But the short version is you were in a plane, and sadly, that plane has crashed here into the Atacama Desert. Okay, not exactly the place you want to be crashing, but that's where you are. If you click on the hotspots, you'll find out a little background information. But basically, the plane is down. Pilot and co-pilot sadly passed away, but everybody else, you're awesome. You're fine, but the plane is done. You've been able to salvage just 5 items. 5 items. You're 50 miles away from the nearest settlement. It is hot, but you've been able to salvage 5 items. So if you want a little background on the Atacama Desert, you can also click on here. And this is an interactive video that I've made using H5P, where you can actually get some little pop-up quizzes and stuff. Again, this is just background demonstrating you some of the cool things that we can actually do in our Miro. And I'll stop sharing there. If you want to just take a moment just to click on those instructions, just to see what that pop-up is like, give you 10 seconds on that. You can spend more time than 10 seconds, of course, but you get the idea. And what I'm doing in the background is I'm loading up the next stage just to make sure I've got it correct. Because it changes, it always changes. All right, 31.34.4. So, as he silently sits here, what I'm going to have you do now is I'd actually like you to decide which items you think are most important on an individual level. So very, very simple way that you're going to be doing that is I'm going to have you click. It says part 1, make your own choice. Part 1, make your own choice. So for doing that, really simple, I just want you to click on the arrow. And it says input a code. This is an embedded Mentimeter. Your code in this case is right here, 31.34.4. 31, 34, 4. So you don't even need to go to a separate website. Right there, if you click on that, and I'll type in the chat bar just so you've got a copy of what that number is. $31, 34, 4. You can make your own choices and we can see what people are typing in there. Basically, of these 5 items, which do you think is the most important to survive the desert? Which is the least? I am very curious what people are going to put in. And you can also see on my shared screen, you can see how it's changing. A lot of people thinking water, compass, area map, flashlight, mirror. Let's find out. All right, just another 10 seconds on that. And I can see the voting changing. Interesting. So this is just a Mentimeter that I've embedded. So far, the embeds you've seen are an H5P file. And if you're not familiar with that, it's awesome. It lets you do branching paths, quizzes, games, all that kind of stuff. And it embeds perfectly cleanly in a Miro board. So you don't have people going to multiple spaces. There's nothing worse when you're doing virtual facilitation than having people go all over the place. We want to make it a simple and shaped experience. All right, that's enough time for individual voting. In just a moment, we're going to go to your teams. And so what's going to happen is you're going to be in a breakout room. By the way, if you want more information on how the thought process was behind this activity, I did put a link there to the article I wrote on it. You don't need to read that now, please don't. Just look at it later if you feel like it. And in your groups, you're actually gonna get a chance to move around these items and rank them together. So I know your individual rankings now. I am very curious about what you decide as a group. So I see that Aria is going to move some of that stuff. That's just an example, Aria. In a moment, you're actually gonna get to go to a beautiful Miro board, which I'm gonna unlock, and boom, look at that. Now we have all of these. So when you go to your breakout room, at the top of your breakout room, there will be a number. I would ask you, please, and I'll bring everyone to me just to make sure we're all looking in the exact same spot. I'm gonna ask you to go to the board that has the same number as your breakout room. So if your breakout room says 1 at the top, then you would zoom in to that board, and as a team, you've got exactly 7 minutes to decide the rankings here. And of course, it has messed up my ranking thing. You get the idea there. It was perfect this morning, and now it's not again. Fun flaw. Anyways, I would like you to go on in there and just rank those with your team. So Natalie, can you set it for 7 minutes, groups of 4 or 5 people? Again, just go to the board that's got your number on it. If you get stuck, don't worry. One of your partners in the room can help bring you to the right place on the board, okay? And then we'll come back and see how you did. And we'll look at the official rankings. So the breakout should start in just a moment. All right, awesome. You've been invited to join a breakout room. Please click the button, people. Welcome back, welcome back. So the question is, did you survive the desert? And I have actually, now, I again, full confession as a facilitator, this is a abbreviated version of this. The real version has actually got 12 things that you're ranking, and you got a lot more time to do it. My goal is not to give you the full experience of that activity, but just to kind of show you a little bit about how we're using Miro to consciously shape a space, both in terms of the physicality of it, as well as in the activities, how we've set them up there. For example, I'm curious, did anybody, when you're on the board with your group, did you sort of peek over and see what other groups were doing? I'm a big believer in loving the peekaboo effect. And I like that because it recreates that energy of a physical classroom where you'd have people on their flip charts and you'd kind of be looking over, what's the other group doing? What's the other group doing? It's one of the reasons why I love this, because it lets us create that physical space here. Also, most important question, if you could just type in the chat sidebar. Just type in the chat sidebar. You couldn't tell if the icon was a magnifier or a mirror. I'm sorry, I will choose my icons a little bit better next time. I thought I had done a good job. That's fine. Anyways, in the chat, could you just tell me, did you leave the plane? This is the real first simple question. Yes or no? Did you leave the plane? Did you leave the plane?
Nope.
Just type yes or no. Did you leave the plane? John Tubbs, we dead? No, we argued about the items. Oh my good. Well, your plane crashed. You were in a plane crash, Judy. So that there's definitely you were, no, you're not on a plane. The plane has crashed. It's in the directions. It's in the direction. I assume we had, that's a dangerous assumption. No. By the way, here's a quick note. This is about hidden assumptions. If you left the plane, statistically, you're dead. I don't know. I thought I just woke up in the desert. You may have missed the opening little bit, the directions part that says you were in a plane crash. That's fine. So if you thought you just woke up in the desert, that was a really bad plane crash. But anyways, if you left the plane, yeah, 1 minute you're in the Miro session, Ethan, and the next minute you're in a desert. If you left the plane, congratulations. So just as an FYI. In terms of the ranking order, I do love what people were putting up there. Just really quickly, I'll share it up on the screen. So this was the overall rankings. We decided that water is most important. The area map and compass are next. The flashlight and mirror are coming in last. And some of those are in the correct place-ish. And some of those are actually in a very different place than we would actually recommend. I'll put it in my background. You can actually see what the rank orders are. Because you're not leaving the plane, mirror is actually number 1. In a desert, you can signal for miles and miles, kilometers and kilometers with a mirror using reflection. Water is second, so you're almost right there. Flashlight, if it gets dark, that's going to be helpful for rescuers to see you in the distance. Compass and map, you don't need because you're not moving. You're just staying at the plane. And you could fight me on this. We'd have a longer debrief, but that's not our purpose today. What we really want to think about is how we shaped this space, about really what would be a Miro taxonomy, essentially. And let me actually introduce you to our Miro taxonomy that we're using. I'm going to share the screen again and bring you to me. Just 1 second. And every time you move to something, it is important to do those sound effects. That's one of like the critical things. And I've nicely, you see a big blank area here. That's because I locked it because I didn't want people to see it and see it in advance. But we have really a 4-part taxonomy here. And I'm actually going to bring you to me. By the way, if after bring you to me, if you don't touch anything, you'll follow me around, at least for a bit. So basically, when we're designing activities in Miro, and I don't want to do a deep dive in this because I want you to experience it with Isman in a moment. But in terms of designing a space and designing interactions, we want to think about 4 things: how we move, how we share, how we gather, and how we interact using the board, okay? So in terms of how we move, you could do just free range, where I'm like, you know, all right, go somewhere on the board with your team, find a spot and design something. Or find a spot anywhere on this space and pull an icon onto this spot, you know, anywhere. It doesn't actually matter where, and it's a free thing. By the way, you're welcome to follow along and do these activities as I do them. So, you know, find a spot, add an icon. Or you could do what we've got here, which is guided. You see those little arrows that we've got on the board here? And if you zoom out big style, you'll see that Miro's got those nice guiding arrows that they've done. That's what we've done here. It's a guided arrow approach. My personal favorite way, especially for new users, is to link items together. And Miro lets you do that. So if I'm starting people out at spot 1 and they click on the arrow, it takes them to spot 2, takes them to spot 3. And well, we're stuck in a Ouroboros here. It's swallowing itself. It's an endless loop there. But you'll get to try that on in a moment with Isman. Last but not least, we have Matryoshka, you know, like the nesting dolls. And that means basically zooming in and zooming out, but using the actual frames of Miro itself. So we've started at number 1. Let's zoom on into some more detail here, and then zoom on in here. It almost feels like we're teleporting back to 2011 and we're playing with Prezi. But it's an interactive Prezi that we can all participate in, that kind of thing. So that's about how we move on the Miro board and how you'd want to move your users. Oh, look at some of the cute items we're getting up there. I like that, thank you. The second is how we share. So is it shared just between the facilitator and the learner? Is it reflective? You know, so think about something, then share with your group. Is it collaborative, but hidden from other people? Or is it visibly collaborative? So just to give you an example of this, when we did that Mentimeter where you were ranking the different items, that's an example of a reflection survey where it just comes to me. Now, how else might I use that? If I had you in breakout rooms doing, for example, a presentation or a debate, I could actually have a type form or something else embedded in here, and I could actually be gathering answers. And having those all aggregate so that I know what's going on in all the different rooms, and I'm summarizing it all, and that's just coming to me. Or I could have you reflect, then share, you know, watch a video, read something, then discuss with a group, you know, put it on the sticky note. You're welcome to do that if you get bored. One of my favorites, though, is actually hidden collaborative. Like, let's say I split you into groups, and I want you doing something on the board, but I don't want other people to see it. I could actually embed a shared document. And if you click there, this is an actual live shared document. It's an Etherpad that I've embedded, and it even has a private chat for that group as well. So if they really wanted to be totally secretive, you can actually come on in here and you can type something. Hello, and feel free to click on there and type and leave a message. But that's hidden from the other groups, all right? Last but not least, just visible collaborative. That's where you can peek and see what other people are doing. Very, very simple. That's what you were doing when you were ranking the items. In this case, I've got question cards, and I'm just having people go through that, and you can see what people are doing. So these are sort of the ways that we can actually share. Okay. Next up, how we actually gather information. And I'm almost done. I'm going to toss it over to Isman in just a moment. Most common way is frameworks. Like this is a storytelling framework we've got here to gather information. The Miroverse, which is a new feature of Miro, definitely click on there later and take a look. It has tons of frameworks that you can freely use in your Miro sessions. We can also gather by sorting and ranking. Different ways to do this. I had you guys actually physically dragging items around, but I could also use Miro's built-in Kanban board feature to have people ranking. By the way, in case you're wondering, the correct order is apple, banana, watermelon, and grapes are definitely last. Voting, I can actually have people, of course, vote on a Miro thing. And I could even have you vote on this right now, super easy. So right now I could have you vote now on these sticky notes. And all you'd have to do is to click on the sticky notes to vote on them. And we'd get to see which question do you think is the most interesting question. Now I'm gonna cheat and stop the voting now. End voting for all. I'm so sorry to end your voting early. So maybe like one of you were following me fast enough to get that. But it's another way that we can actually gather information and capture it. It processes the results, just takes a moment there. While it's doing that, oh wow, actually more of you did that than I thought. Nice. And you can actually see the results. Last but not least is external to internal. Basically, where do you take things from off the Miro board and drag them on? You could take a photo off. You guys earlier, you took YouTube trailers and dragged them onto the board, but this is taking things from off the board and you just drag them or copy and paste them on. So what Isman's going to explore more deeply is how we actually interact. Do we have low structured environment or super structured? Is it small groups? And I'll bring everybody to me just so you're hanging out with me here. Is it a small group or a big group, short time or long time? Are you staying together the whole time or are you rotating between groups? And last, are you doing things one at a time? So like drag some of these GIFs out here and make a story. These are fun little GIFs, by the way. I call them GIFs, even though the creator says GIF, but whatever, he's wrong. Or are you doing it all simultaneously? We're all together. I'd like you to use these icons to draw a house. So these are just different things that you could actually do, okay? So to give an example of interactive stuff, and by the way, if you want to get connected or get some more information on this, feel free to dive into that. To actually dive deeper to this, I'm going to give up my screen sharing and I'm going to pass it over to Isman, who's going to take you deeper into liberating structures and how we actually can create interactions. But I hope you found that taxonomy useful and you can use it when you're actually exploring your own spaces. So it's not just activity, 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 jump around the board, but consciously thinking about how we're shaping our spaces using Miro and using our virtual classrooms, okay? Without further ado, Isman.
Good morning again, everyone. So you can do a couple of things. You can follow me on Zoom or you can follow me on the Miro board. So I'm going to share my screen on Zoom and I am going to bring everyone to me on Miro. Okay, so first question. What are the challenges of today's traditional meeting experiences? So use a sticky note and put it into the space. Use a sticky note and put it into the space. The sticky note tool is on the left side of your screen and it's a sticky note. That's a lot of information. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds. I'm going to put something on the clock. 30 seconds. The real life experience is almost like this, isn't it? Like, wow, there's just too many opinions and too many. And somebody just decided to take over the screen. And this is what it is, isn't it? Okay, that's a massive sticky note. So I'm just going to put that aside. Let me just put that aside. Okay. So yeah, it could be boring. It could be people get easily distracted. Joshua mentioned pens yesterday. Like, you have to wear pens for traditional meetings. So, you didn't have to do it online. And we I think somebody said getting folks to participate. So I'm going to bring you to my next screen. So here are the two authors of The Surprising Power of Liberating Structure. That is Keith McCandless as well as Henry Lipmanovic. I think that's the right way to pronounce it. So the idea around liberating structures is how do we get people to be, to be part of the conversation, to be actively part of the conversation. It is an inclusive experience, and you go away and you move away being a very, a very great, you felt like you had a meaningful participation. And that is, definitely the idea around liberating structures. And how does this look like? So there are 33 different ways that's mentioned in the book around liberating structure. It comes with pretty cool names: 1, 2 for all. There's TRIS. There's 15% solutions. 25-10 crowdsourcing. Some of these are kind of my favorites. We're gonna do Conversation Cafe in a bit, but these are the different ways where you can run a meeting or you can run a conversation that is not typical. It breaks the monotony. It breaks the one person speak and everybody shut up. So we want to make sure that when we do that precious moment in a meeting, everybody gets to contribute. Everybody gets to be part of the conversation, and essentially that leads to a lot more commitment at the end of the conversation. Like, hey, I was there. I was part of the conversation. I was part of the decision making. I'm going to be a lot more committed. I'm going to be a lot more, I want to make sure that, the desired outcomes is reached at, whatever it is that you are trying to do. So I have included a couple of spaces on this Miro board. So you could go to the website. There's also a virtual Liberating Structures Slack group. There's a Liberating Structures mobile app that you can put on your phone if you're running out of an idea to do a workshop in 30 minutes. And I have also created a few spaces on liberating structures in a Miro board somewhere. Go in and have a look and see how that can be done. Take inspiration from it. So what we're going to do now is the Conversation Cafe. So I've created a space called, for this session. So what it is we are going to break out into groups of 4 and 5, and we are going to have conversations. So there are items like a teddy bear. There's probably a dino somewhere in there, but these are your talking heads. So only if you have this item, you will be able to speak. So here are the instructions. Okay. So, but first, why Conversation Cafe? It's really about how do we take the moment to listen more than we talk or we speak? How do we create a conversation where we are doing a lot more listening? We are giving more respect to the moment than actually trying to outspeak each other. So here are the steps when you get to your room. So number one, like if you've seen earlier, you can claim your spaces by using sticky note and putting your name on it. You will prepare for the conversation. So the teddy is your talking object. Only speak when you have it, and when you've passed it on, your job is to listen. So for the round one is everybody gets to speak for 1 minute, and one person, if you could help out, just make sure that everybody is on time. And then we're going to repeat that process in round 2. Again, everybody gets 1 minute. Round 3 is an open conversation. So each group will get 3 minutes to kind of like openly share about what they have heard and what are insights you've gained. So in the middle of the room, there's a bit of space. So put in sticky notes while you're listening. Perhaps you want to take notes while you're listening. And we're going to have about 15 minutes for this total conversation cafe, and then we'll come back for a debrief. Near your rooms, you will find instructions. You will find instructions near your room, so you don't have to come back here. Okay, the instructions are in purple, I believe. So we're going to start the breakout room. So Natalie, so I know you would have questions, so please reach out to me. So before you go, when I'm going to bring you to my screen, based on your breakout room, find the link to the breakout room and click on it.
Boom.
Okay, so welcome back, everybody. So I'm just going to share my screen on Zoom. As well, I am going to bring you to the same space on Miro. So I think we went into the breakout room a bit too early. So there was actually a link central. So if you click on the links, you will actually be transported to your room. So that's how it was supposed to work. And I actually forgot to mention the topic. So this is about that's one of the hardest thing in doing things online when there's so many things to take care of. So just gonna do a quick round the room. So you've gone through the conversation cafe. So I'd like to hear a bit of thoughts. So place your thoughts on sticky notes. What do you think of that experience? What's on your mind after experiencing conversation cafe?
Oh, I like the quote. This feels like the future. This is all about interaction structures. That's the part 4 that we covered on the framework. It's all about how we structure it.
Structured conversation. We are all around the world, but living the same sort of something. It feels safe. Oh, it's nice to hear. Nice to hear. So I'm just going to move the, if you could keep on to the blue space, that would be great. I'm just going to move everybody's sticky notes from the white space. So these are the kind of things that I cannot plan for. Like I did not plan for people to put sticky notes on the white space beside the blue space, but this will happen. So, going online, it means that your preparation time is like triple what you do in real life. So I'm just going to move something aside here. So we're going to end this off with a nice little vote. Okay. So thank you so much for your, there you go. Somebody's just helped me put it aside. So quick dot voting over here. So what's next for me and liberating structures? Interesting. I'm going to explore more. Maybe I need to know more. So pull a sticky note. Oops. How did I see my face in there? It's going to bring everybody to the space again, bring everyone to me. So do a dot voting into the space. And interesting, I'm going to explore more about liberating structures. Maybe I need to know more. Sounds very, very positive. Sounds very positive. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed Conversation Cafe, enjoyed the intro to liberating structures, and let's just keep in touch. I'm handing it over to you, Josh.
Thanks very much. And I'll just close out because we're actually just tiny, like 2 minutes over. So I love this idea that when looking at cities, we often speak of the genius loci, the spirit of the place, which is named after the literal Roman concept of protective guardian spirits of a place. But in modern times, it's often used to refer to a location's distinct character. So my question to you, with these frameworks that we've looked at in terms of how we gather, how we share, how we move, and how we interact, what sort of spirit of place are you creating in your virtual workshops that go beyond the Zoom? What is the distinct character, and how are you consciously shaping these conversations so that they become something more? Hopefully, we've given you some fun tools today that will allow you to dive a bit deeper into that. Isman and I are both happy to stick around to answer any questions that we've got. But thank you so much. I'll put my LinkedIn in the side chat bar if anybody wants to connect. But thank you all for being awesome and for joining us here today.
Thank you so much, both of you, for a wonderful and engaging session. I know we're at time and folks have to get on with their day, so let me first draw everyone's attention down just below the workspace where we were, the presentation space. We have a little retrospective. I'll pull everybody to me here. We would love to get your feedback on this session. We're always trying to make these sessions better by getting the best speakers, having nice interactive sessions. If you like certain things or didn't like other things, we need to know so we can make it better. So take the time to share here. Again, you can do it now or over the next couple of days. Talk about the accolades, what went well, what could be better, and what do you think you'd maybe like to see next. That would be fantastic. I will also draw your attention just below that area. You can get engaged in conversations and learn more about how people are using Miro and ask questions, get answers in the Miro community. There's a link right here in the little icon, community.miro.com. Keep an eye on the events website, events.miro.com, because there are many events coming up all over the world. This was a North American user group event that had way more attendees from Asia. So That's amazing. So we're always looking to pull people in from all over. It's absolutely fantastic to see you all here. And then finally, Miro is hosting a conference coming up on October 13th through 15th. It's distributed 2020. Last year's distributed event was excellent. Lots of great speakers, folks talking about how they're using Miro and how to collaborate virtually. It's a wonderful conference. It's free to attend, and you can sign up by clicking the link here, register now. That's great. So if anyone who needs to sign off after that, thank you so much for coming. We're just going to jump into some questions right now that we had on the board, and there was lots of traffic in the Zoom, and lots of people are signing off and saying thank you. I hope we're not missing any questions from there. We can certainly do our best here. So first question coming up, maybe a strange question for this group. I love the opening. Good, you have our attention now. How popular is Miro? Is there anything better? There are so many online tools right now, and they seem to be encroaching on each other's territory. I'm a little wary of investing time learning any product these days. That's completely understandable. And in my panel up here, Joshua, Isman, Natalie, and Annie can jump in on this anytime. Miro has just gotten over 5 million users, probably coming up on 6 million, I'd have to say. I don't have the numbers directly in front of me. It seems to be becoming a really popular mainstream program in terms of online whiteboard collaboration. There are other programs that do similar things. Miro, from my experience and what I've tested out, and I'm not here to slam any products, but Miro seems to do a lot of what I need. And when you run into a system like this that enables the way you do work, and the only limitation is your imagination, that's what makes Miro amazing for me. So I think it's worth playing around with a little bit, and certainly these events are a great way to learn what's going on before you jump in with both feet and commit the time. But I will also say that Miro's free accounts are very robust, so you can get in and start playing with collaborators immediately and start doing really effective things.
And just to second that, I would say that even if you don't end up using Miro, what we're trying to bring to you today is just this idea that we should be more consciously shaping the spaces to create something that's real. Liberating Structures works incredibly well in Miro. Miro is not the only way you can run Liberating Structures. You can run Wise Crowds without any board at all. But we just want to be thinking about how we're consciously shaping the space. The reason why I've chosen Miro over other tools, personally, is twofold. One, it's API, so it integrates with a lot of other programs really nicely. If you've ever played with Toasty or things like that, it does really nice integrations. Miro is also fantastic, but Miro doesn't integrate with those directly. Also, the way you can embed other tools in it, like Mentimeter, H5P. So basically, I don't want my users, my learners, going anywhere else. You can see that he's scrolling through all the different plugins. I don't want learners going anywhere else. I don't want them to have to click on 20,000 links. With Miro, I can really clearly shape a space and create a classroom with lots of interactivity and a lot of things that are interesting without having them have to click another link, go here, go there. They're just in two places, Zoom and Miro, and that's it. So for me, that's my favorite. It's not the only one. There's a lot of other tools to explore as well.
I say try everything, try and see what's comfortable to you, but have the back of your mind, what is it, where do you want to use this? So I think it's about engagement, it's about interaction. If that's your goal in facilitating or being a trainer, then consider something like this. From a Miro perspective, I'm in the community, join the community, online community, and what has been happening since COVID-19 is that they've been listening a lot to the needs of folks like a lot of us here who are doing facilitation, doing training. So the product roadmap, I believe, and the features that they've been releasing in the last few months are aligned to our needs as trainers, facilitators, and coaches. And I think in the long run that, just to be a little bit more invested in Miro could potentially work out pretty well.
Yeah, and I'll second that, Isman. I think one of the greatest parts of Miro is that the community is helping to form and let it know where we need it to go for our own use, because it's such a wide open platform. Like I said, it's what you do with it that really matters. So we're seeing new templates coming up, new functionality coming up, and a lot of this is being driven through activity in the Miro community. So get on, report your bugs, ask questions, tell them the features you want, and they actually show up. It's unbelievable where it's come in the 2 years that I've been using it in terms of little things you notice every week when you sign on, and it's just excellent functionality. So is this speaking of this particular session or in general for sessions that you've run run? How do you excite people? I mean, if Isman and Joshua might have a response here. I would say the retrospectives really help after a session, because if you can show tangible feedback of how well your session was and how effective it was, people will be more likely to participate. And then recording elements of the session too, and showing how effective Miro can be. While we were doing this tonight, not only do we have the meeting being recorded, I did a couple of screen recordings of my own, because seeing 60 people working together is just amazing to whoever you show it to. So those kinds of things I think could help to pump people up for getting into the next session. You're really effective in your workshop. Question for the wider group from around the world. Are you seeing any organizations moving permanently to working from home?
At least for the next year, we've got Siemens, Google, and a couple of others, at least for the next year.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing too, is no permanent plans, throwing it all out. Of course, you'll have the ones that are remote now and will be forever. I think there'll likely be some organizations shift this way, but nothing that's making major news that I've seen that would lead me to believe it's going to just happen across the board. Okay, how much time do you personally save by having all participants do pre-session activities on Miro instead of doing it the first time live? This is where Miro is the best, where I would facilitate sessions live with the flip charts and sticky notes and all that. We're either giving people markers and waiting for them to write, or one facilitator is writing everything and sticking it up. With Miro, you get to facilitate. You get to do what you do and let the people fill in the blanks. You create the framework or the various way you'd want to set the board up, and they fill in the blanks. So you're giving instructions, you're guiding, not writing and sticking and holding, telling people to hold on because you can't write fast enough. And my handwriting is horrible. So I think you save abundant amount of time. Isman.
Although if you do want to do handwriting, the iPad and other tablets have a really good Miro app. And it's really nice if you've got like a pen or an Apple pen or something to actually draw directly on the Miro board, which is really fun.
I mean, to the question, I always, advise the clients or even participants, if you have the opportunity, like do like a 20-minute sessions before the main event, and do it in an icebreaker. Like I've got this play called my user manual, where they use the sticky notes, where they use text tool, they upload pictures and they pull pictures from Google, and they, the icon friends. So it kind of like build their confidence and, get them going. The other thing is that if you are running a really short event, like say, 2 hours or 3 hours, stick to the last, the least that you can get away with. For example, just stick to sticky notes, and that's it.
Lots of information available in tutorials on how to set these, but basically what you want to do, some boards I've had that get quite big, is you have your main opening view be a table of contents, and then you click, boom, off you go to where you want to go. Then you can also do the same and have return to table of contents links on some of your main areas, so you can fly around your board like crazy. Or maybe consider starting a second board, because when you get into a table of contents, you're getting into crazy size things.
Yeah, I think, John, that goes back to what Isman pointed out, where it's keep it as simple as possible. It's my favorite quote is actually from Jurassic Park on this. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. So it really is start with the user. And there was a great quote, I can't remember it, but it's just, as trainers, teachers, facilitators move online, sometimes we forget all the pedagogy and all the learning we have for face-to-face stuff. And we're like, technology, move here, all of that. And it's just, keep it simple. Miro does allow you to do insanely complex things, but you don't have to do all those complex things. It's like with PowerPoint. Yes, you could have your text bounce around the screen with every single word and fly around, but good God, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Just keep it as simple as possible. It's all about the interactions and about shaping the space. We've shown you a taxonomy of how to do it. That doesn't mean in every single event you should try every single one of those things. It's not, then you've got basically people having an entire meal of appetizers, where they're just like, taste done, rather than actually having a meal. And it's much better to have an actual meal, to think consciously of what you want them to walk away with. And Miro does lets you do that really simply. And I do love the links and teleporting to do that.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes,
okay,
you can freeze bits. Thank goodness.
And they've added some new functionality now where if you freeze something on your board and you have guest participants in, they cannot unlock what you have locked, which is
The best new feature
Fantastic.
ever. And something that Miro had for the last 2 years. But Miro finally has it, which is good.
Yeah. So when
My
you
favorite
click
feature.
So when you click any object, you get the bar that comes up on top. This is the lock button. You simply click it, and then you have to do a long press to unlock it. But once the object is locked, it can't be resized, though it still can be duplicated, and then it's not locked when it's duplicated. But at least the core of what you lock will be there. You can also go into your share settings, and you can alter what access folks have for your board. So you can give them read-only access up until your workshop goes live so they can see what you're up to but not edit anything. That would be a strategy. It's a little annoying if you're constantly changing it on and off, and then you might forget sometime. So locking is a good combination. And I think any board you go on with a new group for the first time, you just need to set the ground rules of what's appropriate and what is not. And if you have new users on the board, start another board and just give a play area, give some real simple tasks, let them watch a video orientation or two so they can learn before bringing them in, because I've done a couple of Miro orientations with folks that have just exploded for many reasons. So you learn as you go, but you can learn from my mistakes by locking things down. Okay, so that's that question. Any plan to bring video and screen share functionality into Miro? Well, actually that exists. So down below on the bottom menu bar is the video chat button. Miro is actually in the midst of integrating with Zoom. And I wish I knew more about that, but it is happening. So likely scheduling meetings and starting the video share will be all done directly through Miro, but the video capability is absolutely here. If I click on the button, down the bottom here, I can start the share and I can mute my microphone, stop the video. And when users see me sharing the video, I can't right now because I'm on this video in Zoom, but you can designate whether you want to follow the video chat or not. This is a little bit limiting on the number of video screens you can see for who's in the room. So I personally still prefer using some kind of a web chat as I'm going through Miro with my workshop attendees, but you can certainly use the video chat functionality in Miro, and it works really well. You can also have people, as we showed you earlier, there's both presentation mode. When you go into presentation mode, you will start running through any frames. The framing tool is over here. You can draw frames on your board, use the presentation tool to go through each frame as you would like a PowerPoint presentation. So that with the follow me button with the video sharing lets people follow you around the board fairly easily, I'd say. Is there a place to see past recordings of the VMUG events? There absolutely is. There's a YouTube channel for Miro. I highly suggest you all subscribe there because all of the user group events from all over the world are posted there. But also back on the events page where you checked in for this event, the video will be posted there as well, and you can watch it. Please allow maybe a couple of days for the edited version to come up, and it will be great. Oh, and look, someone's putting in a link. I love you all. See, look how collaborative this is. This is great. I don't even know who did that. Yay. Someone's sneaking it in. What's the best way to start a learning journey with Miro? You are in one, my friend. This is the best way. I hope you're getting a few tips and tricks and seeing that. I think a lot of us on the board right now, from the facilitators and host perspective, are fairly savvy in Miro. So you're seeing a pretty good example of what's possible. We all started out as users with no experience in this. I would say check out more videos like this, especially if the topic or the theme is really interesting to you. There have been some agile ones. There have been some gamification events. There's a lot, and we have more coming, and we will bring more as you request them. And I think the next best way is, honestly, if you want to watch a YouTube video or something, that's great, but just get into a free account and start playing. It helps to see what other people do so you can emulate it. If you have a purpose, some kind of a meeting you want to run and you just want to brainstorm, that's about the simplest functionality you can use in Miro is the sticky notes and a grid saying put your ideas here, and people start dragging and moving, and you can get into something called affinity charting where you're dragging the like ideas together. So you're forming these big logical groups of comments that match. And from just looking at it visually, you see everybody is obviously thinking of this large group similarly, and these one-offs not as much. So that would be my recommendations to get started with Miro is just start playing and keep coming to the community events. Okay, how do we make it easier for participants to navigate Miro even after using it a few times? For Nomium sessions, I still find it challenging. I think go ahead, Joshua.
Teleports. Isman's the one who converted me to teleports. Those little link things. For me, it's having, if you ever go to like one of Isman's boards, he always has a little agenda thing that has the clear links to everywhere and also the clear links back. Sometimes I put those on and sometimes I don't put as many as I should. You can never have, how to put it, you can never have too many directional links around the board. Just making it easy from one place to another. That's my personal thing, is lower the bar, make it easy when you're having people onboarding, give people permission not to blame the technology. So it's this whole thing is, if you make it hard and if you make it complex, you'll lose people and they'll start blaming the technology and then hating the session. You want the tech to disappear, but we also want to recognize that doesn't mean we should give up on using technology like Miro, because this is where we're moving. You know, think about when you were first using Zoom. How do I do this? How do I mute myself? How do I do this? How do I change my name? Oh, what's a breakout? Holy crap. So all those things seemed like, mind-numbing 6 months ago. So I'm not saying you should have all these bells and whistles right away, but the possibilities and the environment that it lets you shape is so compelling and powerful that to just go, oh, ooh, nope, don't want to use Miro, I think that is premature. And I think that's something that we should think about how we shape it, though, to make it easy for users to use. For me, it's the teleports, which I've gotten better at over the years. But yeah, especially recognizing that people will have terrible tech they're using it on. I take my worst phone, like an old ghetto phone that I've got that's got Wi-Fi from like years ago, and I try to do anything I'm doing on there. And if it works on there, I know it's going to work anywhere. So it's take the worst device you've got, the oldest computer you've got, and assume that your user is using that broken mouse. And if they can still navigate it easily, then you're in a good place.
I would just chip in.
Sorry, can I ask if using frames is a good idea for new users?
I know Isman is a huge fan of frames. I use frames as well. I think frames combined with the linking really is a good 1-2 punch.
Frames is fundamentally used to kind of like export your board easier. So like, you know, you want this space and you want to export it into a PDF or into an image. It's like kind of like the easiest way to get that out. Yeah, so it depends on, you know, you got to try out and see what will work in your context. I kind of use that because I don't like to use the presentation feature, and I don't like to use screen sharing. So like in my class, if you join my class, you know, for a 12-hour workshop, I only use Zoom for like 3 minutes, and the rest of the entire 12 hours is like pretty much on Miro and nothing else. Just back to that earlier question about orientation, about, you know, navigating Miro. I think for most people, when you walk into a physical space, you know, you orientate yourself, right? In a classroom, you're gonna, okay, this is where I'm sitting, this is where I'm looking, this is where, you know, this is the rock concert stage. But it's the same thing when you are on an online platform. Like, you want to help people to orientate where they are. So, you know, always, you know, the first 5 minutes show and tell, like what, you know, Joshua said, I've got a place where it's link central and lots and lots of buttons all over the place. If you click on this, you go back to link central. You click on this, you go back to link central, so that people know where to find their way, you know, in the room. So it's all about, you know, how do you create a sense of a 3D sense in their head, you know, using something like Miro.
Yeah, and I would say the frames are not a great navigation tool, but they are a good presentation and exporting tool. And one other navigation is in the bottom right corner of your screen. Everyone has a little zoom. If you click on this little map, it actually shows you an outline of the Miro board that you can click to drag around, and you can zoom out, and the box where you're viewing gets bigger. So this is kind of an easy way to quickly navigate around as well. And now I've zoomed out much too far. Okay, so we were in questions. Here we go. That's confusing. Great. Is it a better idea if we just stick to just Miro board and not getting the participant to jump in and out of the Zoom for screen share? This all relies heavily on.
Yes.
Yeah, you should. If the work you're doing is in Miro, then you should use the Miro sharing because it's just simpler that way.
Much easier.
The only way I like the Zoom better Sorry, the only reason I like the Zoom better is when I'm showing something when I'm working in Miro, because it guarantees that people see exactly what I'm looking at. When you do pull people towards you in Miro, if they click their screen or move the mouse, it will disengage the share. But the combination of both with a little bit of education on how to navigate is it. What do you got, Josh?
Yeah, I'm actually with Isman. I only screen share at the very beginning when we're orienting people. But once I've gotten them comfortable, I use that bring everyone to me feature, or, you know, once they're able to navigate themselves, it's much better. Screen sharing just confuses people if we're doing it too much. It's also a bit, you know, staggery. The main reason why we're screen sharing today is because for the recording, if it's not screen shared, it doesn't show. So that's actually one of the reasons why I'm doing a lot more screen sharing than I normally would. So is Isman. Is that way, if people want to look at this later, you actually have the video with the screen share. Otherwise, you won't see any of that.
And just a quick point, I think probably 90% of your audience or your learners or students will probably be working off one screen. So, you know, if you're on Zoom, you're on Miro, you're on Zoom, Miro, it's kind of like, oh, you know, it's just a bit annoying. So yeah, I mean, to that point, you know, again, take time to introduce one tool after another. Like, hey, for the next, you know, first hour is just sticky notes. Next hour is let's upload something. Next hours, let's link things. So, you know, you kind of like build their skill, and over time they'll just get comfortable and they sell Miro to others. And that's my experience.
Yeah, and I think like an example of how you two handled the masking on the board really well is a testament to a good way to introduce people to a Miro board is to not overwhelm them and have everything available and visible as soon as you start. Because if it's a complex day you're going to go through, people are going to get a little bit put off and confused and maybe a little less likely to contribute. Whereas if it's some simple activities laid out with not a lot of other clutter, and then as you build competency and comfort in the tool, you start to reveal the next areas you're going to work on. That's a great strategy, just to not overwhelm folks. Okay, last question is, how did you integrate the Menti app earlier?
I could, if you want me to screen share, I can show people in just 10 seconds on that
100%.
Awesome. Also, Arya asked, is it possible to facilitate meeting just using Miro without Zoom? Yes, but you won't have breakouts then, because Miro's video feature doesn't have breakouts. One thing you might want to look at is actually Toasty, toasty.ai, and I'll put that in the sidebar. And I can say that because they actually fully integrate with Miro. Basically, what Zoom is planning to do with Miro, I think Toasty's already doing it. Something worth checking out. They have a full Miro integration. It's still a startup, so it's a little beta, but it's a video program that is fully designed for facilitators. Definitely worth checking out. So let me just really quickly screen share, and I can show you how I did that Miro thing. So give me 2 seconds, please. All right, screen sharing. Make sure I'm in the correct window. All right, so we got our Miro board here, and let's say I want to add in a box with my pop-up Mentimeter thing. So the pop-up that people get is, you know, your menti.com, not mentimeter.com. That's the admin side. So I want to take this. Now you'll notice that there's different ways to there's different ways to embed things. And if I just click the basic embed here with menti.com, what I'm going to get is I'm going to get this link, and that's not really that helpful for me. Now, sometimes it has the nice iframe stuff, but I don't want them going somewhere else. This is not bad, but they're going to an external thing. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to an iframe generator. How do you get this iframe generator? Literally type iframe generator into Google, and any one of them will work. It doesn't actually matter. I'm going to put in, for the iframe URL, menti.com. And let's see, do I want a scroll bar? Sure, why not? How big do I want it to be? You don't really have to fix these features. Scroll bars are only necessary if it's a bigger like website you're sharing, but just to be safe, I do it. Then I click generate. There's my code. This code, I'm going to go back into that iframe, and now I've got actually code because it's iframe code. And now what you've got is this beautiful pop-up on the board that gives you your Mentimeter pop-up. So using an iframe generator lets you embed almost any website, anything that doesn't already come with a code. So like that Etherpad I used earlier, YouTube videos, a lot of things already come with an iframe code pre-done. But if it doesn't, this is a great way to bring other things in. Note, there are a couple websites that block iframe codes, like Google, for example, LinkedIn, for example. It'll go, no, what are you trying to do? But 90% of things you can actually just share over very, very easily. So yeah, that's how to do it. Hope that
Awesome.
answers it.
That is awesome. So if you didn't catch that, it was a bit too quick. It's a lot of info. That's why we record these sessions. So
It's recorded.
See it afterwards. Okay, that is all the questions we have. Everyone has been so generous with their time. Thank you so much for coming to this event. Thank you so much to Joshua and Isman for giving us their time and sharing with us. I think it's very insightful. It's given me a lot to think about for my next workshop design, because I want to get the most out of the group. And now I have some, instead of just kind of figuring what I thought was the best, now I have some actual tools I can go out and apply to make it the best session it can be.